I am 102 years old now. German pilots laughed when they first saw my airplane. They called it a flying milk bottle, a fat pig, a pregnant cow. They stopped laughing very quickly. When 8.50 caliber machine guns opened fire, laughter turned into screaming. April 1943. I was 19 years old. I remember the first time I saw it. Bridgeport, Connecticut, January 1943. Snow had fallen all night, and in the morning the airfield was white like a sheet. And in the middle of that whiteness stood a monster. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. I stopped about 10 feet away from it. I just stood there and stared. It was huge. No, huge is too small a word. It was gigantic. A barrel-shaped fuselage, thick like a water tower. A radial engine, 18 cylinders sticking out like the fingers of a giant. The propeller was 13 feet across, 2 feet taller than me. The wings looked too short for such a massive body. Next to me stood Tommy Wright from Texas, a tall guy who liked to joke. He looked at the P-47 and said, "This is a joke, right? We're supposed to fly this thing? It shouldn't even be able to take off." The senior mechanic, Sergeant MacDonald, a Scotsman with gray mustache, heard him and smiled. "Son, that's 7 tons of American steel and anger. A 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R-2800 double Wasp, 8 Browning .50 caliber machine guns. That's not an airplane, that's a flying fortress." I stepped closer. I put my hand on the cold metal of the fuselage. I didn't know then that this machine would save my life. Again and again. February 1943. My first flight in a P-47. I checked everything 10 times. Harness, instruments, oxygen system, everything. I started the engine. My God. The noise was like an explosion. The whole airplane shook. The instrument panel vibrated. My teeth were chattering. I felt the sound in my bones. I pushed the throttle forward. The takeoff run began, and then the P-47 tried to kill me. The torque from the propeller twisted the airplane sharply to the right. Suddenly, I pushed the left pedal with all my strength, barely kept it straight. The speed built up. 60 miles an hour, 80, 100. I pulled the stick back. Nothing. Pulled harder. Finally, reluctantly, like a sick elephant, the P-47 lifted off the ground. I climbed, slowly, painfully slowly. At 2,000 feet I tried to turn. The P-47 turned like a freight train, heavy, lazy. I needed half the sky just to make a turn. I thought, the Germans will shoot us down easily. We won't even be able to dodge. Then the instructor's voice came over the radio. "Good. Now try diving." I pushed the stick forward, and the world changed. The P-47 dove like a falling stone. The speed rose insanely fast. 250 miles an hour, 300, 350, 400. The wind howled. The airplane vibrated. The controls became heavy and stiff. 450 miles an hour. I had never flown that fast. Never. At 1,000 feet, I pulled back with both hands. The P-47 pulled out of the dive. The G-force crushed me into the seat. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. But when my vision cleared, I was smiling. That was it. That was its weapon. Not maneuverability. Speed, weight, energy. Strike from above. Strike fast. Get out. Don't fight on their terms. Fight on yours. But first, We had to learn how not to kill ourselves. From September 1942 to March 1943, we lost 41 airplanes in training accidents. 18 pilots died. 18 young American boys who died not from German bullets, but from their own mistakes. The P-47 did not forgive mistakes. Too much speed on landing, it ground looped and flipped over. Too much power on takeoff, torque threw it into a spin. In a dive, if you waited too long, the speed became so high that the ailerons froze. No control, only falling. Tommy Wright crashed in March. He entered a dive and never pulled out. He hit the ground at 500 miles an hour. All that remained of the airplane was a hole in the ground 10 feet deep. Of Tommy, nothing. I stood at the funeral, looked at the empty coffin, the American flag on top, and I thought, maybe I'll be next. But every morning I climbed back into the cockpit, started the engine, flew, because across the ocean there was a war, and it was waiting for us. April 1943, England. The air smelled of wet grass, fuel, and fear. We were stationed at an airfield carved out of farmland. Mud everywhere. Rain almost every day. The briefing room was silent. On the wall, a map of occupied Europe. Red strings stretched across the English Channel into France. Our mission: escort B-17 flying fortresses on a daylight bombing raid. Target: aircraft factories near Rouen. The colonel spoke calmly, like he was talking about the weather. Expect heavy flak. Expect fighters. The Luftwaffe will not let you pass freely. I checked my watch. 6:10. My hands were sweating. This wasn't training anymore. This was real. We took off in pairs. The Thunderbolt was loaded to the limit. Full fuel tanks. A belly drop tank. Full ammunition. 350 rounds per gun. 8 guns. That was 2,800 rounds of .50 caliber. Enough to turn an airplane into scrap metal. We climbed for almost 40 minutes. Slowly. Relentlessly. The B-17s were already above us, shining in the morning sun like silver whales. At 25,000 feet, the temperature was 40 degrees below zero. My oxygen mask froze around my face. The world below looked peaceful. Fields, rivers, tiny villages. Then the flak started. Black bursts blooming around the bombers, like dirty flowers. I tightened my grip on the stick. Bandits! 11 o'clock high! The radio exploded with voices. I looked up. Tiny black dots against the sun. They were diving fast. Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. Sleek, elegant, deadly. One of them rolled and came straight at me, head on. I remembered what the instructor said. Do not turn with them. You will lose. I pushed the nose down. The P-47 screamed as it entered a dive. The German flashed past above me. I pulled up hard. The altimeter spun wildly. My vision narrowed. Gray tunnel. And then I was behind him. Perfect position. I placed the gun sight on his fuselage. My thumb hesitated. Half a second. That was the difference between life and death. I pressed the trigger. The airplane shook violently. 8 machine guns fired at once. The sound was not a rattle. It was a continuous roar. Tracers reached out and touched the German fighter. Pieces flew off the wing. The canopy shattered. Smoke poured from the engine. The aircraft rolled over and went straight down. I did not see a parachute. I felt no joy, no triumph, only a strange emptiness. My first kill. The fight exploded around us. Fighters everywhere. Contrails crossing the sky. I fired short bursts. Dove. Climbed. Dove again. The Thunderbolt absorbed damage like a boxer. A shell exploded near my wing. The airplane jolted. Warning lights flashed, but it kept flying. I glanced at my right wing, a fist-sized hole near the root. Another airplane would have lost the wing. The P-47 didn't care. Fuel was running low. The bombers turned for home. We stayed with them until the coast, then turned back toward England. My hands were shaking. I realized I had been holding my breath. When we landed, the ground crew gathered around my airplane. They counted the holes. 103. Bullet holes. I climbed out of the cockpit and my knees gave out. The crew chief looked at the damage, then at me and said, "Any other plane, you'd be dead." That night, I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling. I kept seeing the German airplane falling. I finally understood something. The Thunderbolt was not graceful. It was not elegant. But it was honest. It did not pretend. It was built to survive. And so were we. We learned later what the Germans called our airplane. Their pilots laughed when they saw the P-47 for the first time. In their mess halls, they joked about it. A flying milk bottle. A fat pig. A pregnant cow. Compared to their fighters, the Thunderbolt looked ridiculous. The Messerschmitt 109 was slim and sharp. The Focke-Wulf 190 looked like a knife with wings, and our airplane looked like a barrel with a propeller. They believed it would be easy prey. They believed it could not turn. They believed it would fall apart under fire. They were wrong. Our intelligence officers showed us German documents captured in France, combat reports, pilot diaries. In one of them, a Luftwaffe ace wrote, "The new American fighter is ugly and slow. It is too heavy to dogfight. Attack it from above and behind." That was exactly what we wanted them to think. Because the Thunderbolt was not a dogfighter. It was a hammer. When the Germans attacked from above, we dived away. The P-47 fell faster than any fighter in the sky. It became a steel meteor. German pilots tried to follow. Many of them never came back up. At high speed, their controls stiffened. Their wings shook. Their engines screamed. But the Thunderbolt kept accelerating. Its massive wings and heavy structure could survive speeds that would tear other fighters apart. Then, we pulled out of the dive and climbed back up, carrying energy with us. That was when we struck. Not in turning circles, but in vertical space, up and down, like a hammer hitting an anvil. The Germans did not understand at first. They kept trying to fight us like Spitfires. They kept turning with us. And every time, they lost speed, lost altitude, lost their lives. When we fired, it was not like other fighters. 2 or 4 guns made noise. 8 guns made destruction. 1 second of fire sent 160 rounds into the air. In 3 seconds, nearly 500 bullets, a wall of steel. If even 10 of them hit, an airplane died. Wings came off, engines exploded, cockpits vanished. German pilots learned to fear a sound, a deep, continuous roar. Not the chatter of machine guns, but the voice of 8 Brownings firing together. They stopped calling us milk bottles. They started calling us Juggernaut. The Jug. They wrote in their reports, "Avoid vertical combat with P-47s. Do not pursue them in a dive. Do not attack from below." But war does not always allow choice, and when they made a mistake, the Thunderbolt punished them. They said the Thunderbolt could fly without half a wing. We laughed at that, until we saw it. One morning in June, Lieutenant Harris came back alone. His formation was gone. His canopy was cracked. Smoke poured from his engine, and his left wing was almost torn off. A shell had exploded inside the wing root. The metal was twisted like paper. The aileron was gone. Fuel leaked out in a long silver trail. We ran toward his airplane when he landed. The crew chief just shook his head. Any other fighter would have broken in two. Harris climbed out slowly. His face was gray. He said, "They hit me over Belgium. I lost the engine for a moment. Then I thought I was dead." But the double Wasp kept turning. One cylinder failed, then another, but the rest kept working. 18 cylinders, built to take punishment. The armor plate behind the pilot had stopped a 20-millimeter shell. It left a dent as big as a dinner plate. If it had gone through, there would have been no story. Another day, Captain Reynolds returned with his tail shot almost completely off. The elevator cables were hanging loose. The rudder barely responded. He flew the whole way home using only trim and throttle. We looked at his airplane and whispered, "How did this thing stay in the air?" The answer was simple: weight, steel, and American engineering. The Thunderbolt was not built to be light. It was built to be strong. Its wings were thick. Its fuselage was like a tank. The engine sat in front of the pilot like a shield. When bullets came from the front, they hit steel and cylinders before they reached flesh. German pilots noticed. They wrote in their reports, "The American P-47 is extremely difficult to destroy. It can absorb enormous damage. It often escapes even when set on fire." We did not feel invincible. We knew men who didn't come back. But when flak burst around us and fighters attacked, we trusted the jug. It carried us home when nothing else could. By 1944, the air war over Europe was changing. The Luftwaffe was weaker. Fewer fighters, less fuel, less trained pilots. But the war on the ground was just beginning. Normandy, France, Germany, tanks, trains, columns of trucks. And the Thunderbolt found a new job. We became flying artillery. They loaded us with bombs, 500 pounds under each wing. Rockets, high explosive. And always our 8.5s. When we attacked from low altitude, the Germans heard us before they saw us. The sound of the engine echoing through valleys. And then the guns. A long, tearing roar. We strafed trains until the boilers exploded. We attacked columns of trucks until the roads were blocked with burning metal. We hit tanks from the rear where the armor was thin. Rockets first, then guns. The bullets cut through engines, fuel tanks, men. One day near St. Lo, we were sent against a German armored column. The sky was low and gray. Perfect weather for killing. I dove from 2,000 feet. I saw a Panther tank below me stopped on the road. I fired the rockets. They missed. I came around again. This time I lined up the rear deck. I fired a 2-second burst. The tracers walked across the engine cover. Flames burst out. The hatch opened. 2 men jumped out, burning. I still see them sometimes when I close my eyes. War on the ground was different from war in the air. Up high, you fought machines. Down low, you saw faces, and you could not forget them. The Germans called us Jabo, Jagdbomber, fighter bomber. To them it meant only one thing: death from the sky. They hid in forests. They camouflaged their vehicles. They moved only at night, because in daylight the Thunderbolts hunted. By the end of the war, the P-47 had destroyed thousands of locomotives, tens of thousands of trucks, hundreds of tanks, and more than 3,000 enemy aircraft, not in the air, but on the ground. We were no longer just fighters. We were executioners of supply lines, and the Germans knew it. The war ended in May 1945. I was 21 years old. I had flown 87 combat missions. I had lost friends. I had killed men I never met. And I had survived. They sent me home on a troop ship. The ocean was calm. The sky was blue. And for the first time in years, there was no sound of engines above me. No flak. No radio voices shouting. Only wind and water. I tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw diving clouds and burning airplanes. They put my Thunderbolt in a museum, painted it silver, hung a rope around it, and children touched the tires that once rolled into war. Decades passed. The world changed. Jets replaced propellers. Radar replaced eyesight. Missiles replaced machine guns. But sometimes, in air shows, I still hear it, that deep, steady growl of a radial engine. And I remember the jokes. Flying milk bottle, fat pig, pregnant cow. I remember the laughter and how it ended. The Thunderbolt was never beautiful. It was never elegant. It did not win by grace. It won by force, by weight, by fire, by refusing to die. German pilots laughed at it until its 8.5s rained lead on them. And then the laughter stopped.